starting from scratch again. How do you build again as a number one dealer in gensets in all over India?
Initially, it was, to be honest, very tough. So the most important thing and the most important USP which I feel is after sales service support.
क्या तरीके से genset select किया जाए?
So you need to do a load study. You need to check the diversity factor and you need to check the maximum demand. You need to check the highest.
What are the common mistakes people are doing while selecting a generator?
They might select a genset which is having either a bigger genset and the load is less, or it can be vice versa.
What are the common mistakes people are doing while selecting a capacity of compressor?
Screw compressors are more efficient compressors in terms of power saving, whereas the piston compressor are not as efficient in terms of power saving. In terms of cost, they are lower. So you need to decide what is the duty cycle, how many hours you need to run your compressor.
You have completed 6 triathlons, full Ironmans.
So a triathlon is a 3-sport event where you swim, bike and where you run. So it is in one day. It is supposed to be the most toughest one-day sport. Consistency is one of the most important thing. Now, Mr. Vishwesh, you will say, I am also consistent.
Yeah.
Why not for personal physical health or fitness? Why not?
Hello everyone, I welcome you all to our YouTube channel, The Plastic Pearls by VK. Today we have a very different type of personality with us, Mr. Venkatesh Kashalkar. He is not only a businessman, but also an Iron Man. So without any further delay, we will get on with the interview. Today we have a energy expert, generator expert, Mr. Venkatesh Kashalkar.
Hello.
So Venkatesh ji, आप अपने business के बारे में बोलिए. Navitas, how you start your business in generators and how your journey so far for last 25 years.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm glad that as you mentioned earlier during a discussion that your company is now 50-year-old, which is a great achievement by itself. And you have been associated with the Reliance for last 25 years. First and foremost, heartiest congratulations to you on this achievement. And this is a very good initiative which you told me about doing this podcast, which you are putting across in your business community and making them aware of getting people from different fields and making them aware of things in different fields. Okay, Vishwesh, so let me introduce myself. I am Venkatesh Kashalkar. You already introduced me. I am 50-year-old. I finished my diploma in mechanical engineering in 93, 94. And after that, I was with Greaves Cotton as a trainee engineer for 1 year. In 94, I did 1 year dealership training. We were dealers for Greaves Cotton Limited for service business during those days. Since 94, we have been into service business. In 96, I moved to Aurangabad and we started a branch office over there for genset servicing for Greaves Cotton. And then way forward, in those days, the gensets used to be open gensets. There never used to be an acoustic enclosure, what we see nowadays. Okay. So it used to be open genset making a lot of noise. And in 2004, CPCB guidelines, that is Central Pollution Control Board guidelines, came into place. And all the open gensets, they made them mandatory to have an acoustic enclosure, which we see everywhere. You see them all across Pune or in industries and everywhere. So 2004, I moved to Pune. At that time, my daughter was 5, so we thought education-wise, Aurangabad was not the place because I have been born and brought up in Pune. And I lived here for almost 25 years. So I moved from, now you call it Sambhajinagar, sorry by the way. I moved from Sambhajinagar to Pune in 2004. And then that time we were service dealers for Greaves for Pune and Aurangabad, and also we had Nasik. And that time then when this acoustic enclosure thing came into picture, we were doing small canopies for, if I'm not wrong, I remember for that time it used to be Idea and Vodafone. BPL, sorry, it used to be BPL in those days. So we got few orders from them for Nagpur where the gensets, we had to make an acoustic enclosure. And when these stringent norms came into place that all gensets needs to have an acoustic enclosure, we thought, why don't we get into manufacturing of gensets? And to be honest, it was a very big move as from a dealership where you are servicing gensets and buying gensets from company and selling. It's a big move from being a dealer to be a manufacturer. You're already a manufacturer. You understand what challenges you have to be a manufacturer. So we approached Greaves, we approached banks, we took loans. In fact, we took a 2-acre plot in Pirangoot, which is actually next to your unit. We built a factory over there. And from 2005 onwards, we became an OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer for Greaves. Then we approached Mahindra and Mahindra, and we became their OEM as well. So what we used to do from 10 kVA till say 100 kVA, we are buying engines from Mahindra, alternators from Stamford, Crompton, and we had put up a sheet metal manufacturing plant, paint booth to manufacture acoustic enclosures, base frames and stuff. So we started building gensets. And from 2005 till 2012, we are OEM. And from 125 kVA onwards, we are doing Greaves Cotton. And below that, we are doing Mahindra and Mahindra. Till 2012, I had offices in Bombay, Nagpur, Mumbai, Nagpur. And we had dealers all over Maharashtra. So we were doing very good business. In 2012-11, financial 11-12, we sold around roughly 850 gensets.
Oh, great.
Time. Yeah. And we had turnover of 40-45 crores. But then in 2011-12, in that financial year, there were differences between the partners. And me and my younger brother, we decided to separate from them. And then the manufacturing business was handed over to them, and we were handling the service business. So to your question, how the Navitas genset performed. So once we went from that time we were operating as the name of Fury Diesel Services. We separated from that company, and me and my younger brother, we started Navitas Gensets Private Limited. So that is how the journey of Navitas started. So then my brother, he was handling Greaves service business in our other firm named MK Services. Okay. And then we started selling Greaves cotton gensets, because then Greaves had changed the policy from OEM to manufacturing at their own plant.
Okay.
So we started selling Greaves genset. We started selling Kaiser screw compressors, for which also we are dealers. We started doing aluminum piping, and gradually we also started doing turnkey electrical projects. So this is the profile of Navitas gensets.
Okay. So in Navitas gensets, after getting separated, it's like starting from scratch again.
Absolutely.
So how do you build again as a number one dealer in gensets in all over India?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. We are like in numbers, we are number one genset for Greaves cotton. Yes, we have sold the highest number of gensets pan India, and we operate only in Pune. So yes, it was initially, to be honest, very tough, because genset is a very competitive field, and even now I'm proud to say we are in top 3. But back then there were 2 very strong players, Cummins and Kirloskar, and Mahindra was, which we had only initially started, which right. We built a brand. It was also quite aggressive. So it was very tough. So we started from scratch. But again, as I told you, our USP, our core values are very strong. So even in first year, we used to sell around 50 or 100 gensets. That time also, the most important thing for when you sell a genset or sell any product, to build it, is how you support the product. You should not be like, you might say it is genset looks like a box. So I always say you should not be a box seller. When you sell a generator, you need to give equally good service. Right. It might be a factory because a customer buys a genset, it is for emergency. When his mains fails, he needs a backup so that his plant runs. And if that backup doesn't function on time, or if it has a failure, then he cannot afford that failure. So the most important thing and the most important USP which I feel is after sales service support. So that was our backbone, which we had been doing way back since 94. So that is how we started building customers. Okay. And the most important thing, for example, if you have one factory, you want to set up 3-4 factories. And for example, a utility product is like say a generator and a compressor. And you have used a genset of Greaves, bought from Navitas. You have bought a compressor of Kaiser from Navitas, and these are the guys who I can rely on. Then I'm sure you are going to give me a repeat order. Right. The same thing happened. We got customers who started giving repeat orders. Our sales team started building new customers, getting in new customers. And that is how we started building from there. Okay. It was a process. So 2012 to 25, as I told you, now we are number one. So it was a journey of almost 12 years now.
Right. So in this conversation, you mentioned about core values. So what are your core values and how you apply it in your business?
See, in business, the most important thing I always believe is customer first. you have to be customer centric. At the same time, even staff centric. So we have very two important core values. If I give a commitment to a customer that I'm going to deliver a product on so and so date, if I committed it, I will ensure it is delivered. If I promise my staff that your salary will be done on 5th of every month, it will be done on 5th of every month. If I tell my vendor your payment is going to be released on so and so date, it will be released. So this is a very important thing. What I see most of the times, when you are doing a business, for example, there is a capital product. A generator costs 10 lakhs. It goes up to, for example, I just took a 2000 kV order. That order is 1.4 crore. We take advances from the customer. But when I say I have got the advance from the customer, I have to pay to my principal company. When I take the advance, principal company, I'm not giving them advance right away. I give them before delivery. So that money which is in my account is not my money. Only the profit after from purchase and sale is going to be my money. So you should utilize that money properly. What I want, it is not a generalized statement, but I've seen people, they want to rotate money, then they might divert the money, then they will say whenever the money comes, I'll give it back. So these tactics we have never done. We park the money whenever the principal company demands the money before dispatch of the genset, immediate the payment goes to that. So to the company. So my first philosophy is financial management has to be very good. You just cannot divert funds. So that is a very important core value. I always believe financial management, ensure your customer is happy, your staff is happy, and your vendors are happy. When you have money, I am sure you cannot make anyone unhappy. Right. This is the first and foremost, most important thing in my personal experience of almost doing business for the last 27 years.
So now we will come about your expertise about the gensets. See, in plastic industry, why I call you to do a podcast, because in plastic industry we have many people are using gensets, but many of the times we have some reading on MSME bills, maximum demand is this much and connected load is this much. And usually what I have seen is generator people, the sales guy comes and tells you, इतना लगेगा आपको, इतना केवीए का. मैं एक्चुअली उतना लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा, उसमें एफिशिएंटली रन करना है. ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट, कैपेक्स भी बढ़ जाएगा, ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट भी बढ़ जाएगा. तो इस हिसाब से आप जनरेटर इतने साल से बेच रहे हो, तो आप क्या सजेस्ट करते हो, क्या तरीके से जनसेट सिलेक्ट किया जाए?
Okay, so I'll explain you on this. So basically, in my experience, there are two types of customer. One set of customer is, he will say, I want so and so kVA ka genset, so and so rating wala genset. So my sales team, we give him a quote, and then the negotiation happens. And then whatever the order is finalized, or we get or we lose. The second set of customer, where you asked me, is that I have my factory, my connected load is so much, my MD is so much, what rating you will suggest us? So what we do basically, we go to the customer premises, we go to his factory, we see his MACB bills, his MD. MD is a very important thing. The maximum demand more or less tells you how much kilowatt power you are consuming. Okay, but again, MACB is an unlimited source of power, whereas genset is a limited source of power. When I mean unlimited, it is like it's just flowing. Right. Whereas in DG set, if you go for a 125 kV or a 160 kV, it is a limited source. It is 125 kV. It is going to deliver 125 kV or 173 ampere full load current. So these are limited source. So here, like the motors, for example, in your factory, you have some motors, some machines is having some VFD drives. So you need to do a load study. You need to either we ask the customer, sir, can you give us your load list? So once the customer gives us his load list, we check the load list. Then we ask him what is the diversity factor. Because diversity factor is also extremely important. Because if you say that, okay, this is my connected load and this is going to be my diversity factor. In the sense, my factory, everything is not going to run at one time.
Right.
For example, if you have an overhead crane, it is going to run when you're going to lift something. It is not going to run round the clock.
Right.
If you have, say, aircon in your office or in your, say, some CNC rooms, those aircons will run when someone is sitting in the office.
Right.
So you need to check the diversity factor, and you need to check the maximum demand. You need to check the highest kW of motor. What are the kick loads? Is it a star delta? Is it direct online? If star delta is there, then it's a 3-time kick load. If DOL is there, it's 6-time kick load. So all these calculations you have to do. You have to check the diversity factor, and then you can suggest the right rating to the customer.
Okay.
Here, fuel efficiency is also important. As you rightly said, if you buy a bigger genset and it is going to run at, say, 35-40% load, then also the efficiency, of course, it's linear. So it cannot happen that if a 125 kg genset is going to consume, say, 28 or 30 liters at full load, it is going to consume linearly at 25% load. So it will be less. But now, if you see, after June 2024, new emission guidelines are come into picture.
Okay.
They are CPCB 4 guidelines. So in CPCB 4 guidelines, which are as good as your BS4, BS5 engines in automotive. So after these guidelines, the engines have to be loaded at 25-30% load. You cannot run engines at lower load.
Oh.
Yeah. Because the NOx, CO2, because there are converters, it gets choked, lot of things.
All right.
So sizing is very important. And we have a technical qualified team. We go to the customer, we do the load study, and we recommend him the correct sizing of genset.
What are the common mistakes people are doing while selecting a generator?
See, as I said, common mistakes when
In the industry, for domestic.
Yeah, if they have done a research, normally when you are running a factory, usually mistakes don't happen. But yes, sometimes, as I told you, like they might select a genset which is having either a bigger genset and the load is less, or it can be vice versa. But in my experience in industry, normally people are quite qualified. If they have their own electrical team, they have their maintenance managers, and in some cases they take our help. They ask us what sizing we have to give them.
Right.
Usually, in my experience, such mistakes don't happen at least in industries, I would say.
Okay. And what do you suggest if an industry is having 250 kVA load or something, or 100 kVA load? He should use 2 gensets and part the load so that so that he can use both the gensets whenever necessary with efficiency, or he should install a full capacity generator?
See, here again, it depends on what is the load factor. So, for example, I'll give you an example of, I don't know about industry, but maybe for example, I can give you a hotel example where we recommend to go for 2 gensets. See, when you go for 2 gensets, the capex cost also goes up, the maintenance and operational cost also goes up. Okay, but for example, in the hotel industry, when the occupancy in the rooms is not there during the daytime. So daytime, the load is less. For example, a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel, the rooms will be occupied when the guests come back in the evening. Okay, so the load during the daytime is low. So here what we suggest, go for 2 gensets. When the power fails during the daytime, you can use 1 genset. We can put a synchronizing panel or a load dependable start-stop panel in between. And then in case the load goes up, then the second genset will come into operation.
Okay.
But nowadays, to answer your question from industry perspective, if you have a very varied and diverse load, then only it is viable. Otherwise, it is better to go for 1 genset because your operation cost, your capex cost, everything goes down. And nowadays, these all CPCB 4 gensets are super reliant. So you don't have to worry that genset will fail and then I need to have 1 more genset. So they're super reliant genset. So in my opinion, if there is a very big diversity of load, which usually industry doesn't have, then it is better to go for 1 single genset.
Okay. And how we can use the genset more efficiently so that our operational cost goes down? Like currently, I think 13-14 rupees per unit
Yes. So
getting?
genset cost is compared to MSEB is very high. The reason for that is you are running it on HSD, diesel. So diesel is, I think, is close to 100. Yeah. So operational cost is higher. So the most smart thing is that I've seen people, if you see, again, it depends on your supply and demand. If your production is going to get hampered, you had delivery commitments, then you don't have a choice, right? You need to run that genset to deliver it to the customer. So the best thing is that you need to keep it well maintained. You need to do routine servicing. So all these things, if you're doing, then you will definitely going to get an efficient power output. The fuel consumption will not go high because you are not maintained the genset. If all these precautions are taken, preventive maintenance of genset, routine servicing, maybe an AMC given to the authorized dealer, then the genset will run efficiently and you will get the best output from it.
Okay. Is there any automation in gensets now? Like,
yeah, automation in the sense we
and
have.
how it can help in optimizing the costs?
See, as I told you, all these CPCB4 gensets are very, very efficient gensets in terms of emission norms, and basically mostly this has been done for emission norms. That is number one. Number two, automation is we can put an AMF panel in between, or if you have multiple gensets, then we can put synchronizing panel in between. So when you have, so for example, for a bigger factory where, for example, you require 1000 kVA genset, so we can go here when the plant sizes go really big, then I would always suggest to go with synchronizing. So synchronizing panel, if for example there is 500 kVA genset, so we set the parameter at 75% load of the DG set. So if the genset load goes above 75%, then the second genset will start automatically, and the load will get divided. But till that time, only one genset will be running, so your fuel cost will go down. So to your earlier question, should I go for one genset or two genset? It depends on the scale and size of the factory. If the factory is really very big, then I would suggest you go for 2 into 500 kVA genset. For smaller size factories where you require gensets up to 250 kVA or up to 320 kVA, then it doesn't make sense to go for two 160 kVA or two 180 kVA genset. So if the bigger the scale of the factory, then you can go for two gensets with synchronizing panels and AMF panels in case you need power within restored within 10-15 seconds.
What are the safe practices in gensets while running the gensets?
See, practices, I would say the installation has to be very right. You need genset to be kept in a very, very well ventilated area so that the suction side and the exhaust side, engine doesn't get overheat. Then doors, you should keep space also has to be proper so that doors from all sides, you can open the doors. From maintenance point of view, to check, exhaust piping has to be done properly. Wherever the chimney has to be taken to a certain height, those things has to be taken care. And then third and fourth thing would be preventive maintenance, timely maintenance of the genset. If these things are taken care, then I think safety factor is totally taken care of.
Okay, and while running the gensets, what are the norms of MSCB? Like electrical distribution companies? I think we have to pay some charges to...
You need to pay that duty to MSCB. That is one thing. You have an energy meter and the power consumption. You need to pay a certain duty to MSCB. Apart from that, there used to be electrical inspector permission, if you must have heard. People used to ask if genset has been installed. So after the new rules, till 200 kW, that is up to 250 kVA, you don't need to take an electrical inspector permission.
Okay. Electrical
inspector permission is not required up to 200 kW.
Okay.
That is 250 kVA.
250 kVA.
So for example, 320 kVA onwards, you need to take electrical inspector permission to run a genset.
Okay. And but MSCB charges are there?
The duty is there. Certain duty is there which you have.
We have to pay to the electricity board.
Yes.
Okay. About compressors, you are working with Kaiser screw compressors. So in our industry, the air is also the playing a major part in manufacturing the products. So how do we calculate our requirements in terms of air? And like in gensets, we have MD, maximum demand, where we can get an idea. But in air, yeah, there is written some pressure bar requirement. But actual what type of capacity of the compressor we need, we don't know. How we calculate that?
So basically, in a compressor, there are two things. One is a pressure, which you said in bar, and second is a CFM. That is, CFM is the discharge, cubic feet or meter cube per minute. So CFM is very, very important. So here, what all equipments you have in your plant. So what we do, we can also do a study over there. So when we sell a compressor, if customer says, I have got so many CNC machines, I need air for CNC machines. I have got nut runners, I need so much air to run the nut runners. I have certain machine where it requires specific amount pressure and volume of air. So we do a complete study. We send our engineer. We have certain meters where we check what is the requirement. And at the same time, there are customers. For example, you are a customer. Whatever equipment you have, your equipment nameplate will also tell you how much air is required, what pressure, and what volume. So these are also there on your nameplates. So from them, we can calculate what sizing of compressor will be required. And again, in that, as I told you, Kaiser, we call it as a Mercedes-Benz of compressors. It is the most expensive product. It's 100% German product. But the most important thing, what I always say in Maharashtra, where we are conducting this podcast, we don't have a power failure problem that big. At least in city like Pune or maybe Mumbai, the power goes, but it goes for a very short time. So a generator there is as a standby application. It might run, for example, in Pune, where I see it hardly runs for say 50 hours or 60 hours in a month. That is also on a very higher side, maybe even 25, 30 hours in some places. But compressor is part of your manufacturing. So again, maybe the capex cost is very high when you buy a Kaiser compressor, but opex cost, that is the sizing, after you do a correct sizing of compressor, we are using i4, the most highest efficient motors of Siemens. Our air end is a patented technology air end. So the operational cost is very, very low compared to competition. So sizing is important. And why I say selecting a Kaiser compressor, because our operational cost, we prove it on paper, is very, very lower when you have a high duty cycle compared to competition. It again depends on your duty cycle, how many hours you are running a compressor. If you're running it round the clock, then our duty cycle is, when the duty cycle is very high, our operational cost is very low.
Okay. What are the common mistakes people are doing while selecting a compressor? The capacity of compressor.
See, capacity of the compressor, as I said, there are two types of compressor. One is a piston compressor, one is a screw compressor. So screw compressor are more efficient compressors in terms of power saving. Whereas a piston compressor are not as efficient in terms of power saving. In terms of cost, they are lower. So you need to decide what is the duty cycle, how many hours you need to run your compressor. If the duty cycle is higher, you should always work on the efficiency part. That is efficiency, when I mean by efficiency is your power cost. If you're using better efficiency, like I told you, you're using Siemens i4 motor, then our air end is a patented air end. So with that technology, our compressor power cost is extremely low. So sizing, as I told you, you should take support from an expert who can suggest you what sizing of compressor will be required. If you see your duty cycle is higher, then you should decide, should I be investing a little more on a compressor, the payback period will be very quick. We calculate and we have shown our customer, even if you are paying say 25-30% higher for our product over competition, the payback cost will be recovered within 3 to 4 years. So these are very important things which a customer should see while buying a compressor. And most important, it has to be very, very reliable.
Okay.
Which is Kaiser. Kaiser is the most reliable compressor available today in the market. Another thing which we have noticed in the industry is that the loss of air in the distribution. So most of the conventional system used to be GI or MS piping. So when you are doing this GI MS piping, you need to have welding at the joints or at bends. There are elbows. So there are a lot of leakages. So a customer will always say, अरे हवा तो जा रहा है, इतना air loss हो रहा है. Because of leakages, the compressor will keep running. It will keep running and the power cost will go up. So it's very important to arrest those leakages in your system. That is also one place where you will be losing power and your electricity bills will go high.
So what is the good piping?
Okay,
What type of piping we should use to handle pressure of compressor, as compressed air is like a bomb?
Okay, so to answer your question, so as I told you, we are dealer for Greaves Cotton for gensets, for Kaiser screw compressors, for Kaiser screw compressors, and third product what we have is Legrees Parker aluminum piping, and there is a PPCH piping by name of Anjaneya. So depending on customer. So basically, when you do aluminum piping, because the inside it's very smooth, so the flow of air is very good. And the fittings what we are having, they are leak-proof fittings which we guarantee for 10 years.
Okay.
Even in PPCH, it's very quick to assemble. Again, inside the smoothness is higher, so the flow is better. So we are nowadays people are also getting aware of it, because one leakage, we also do those tests. We have got leak meters where we test where the leakages are, and we tell the customer you change the conventional MS or GI piping to aluminum or PPCH piping. So aluminum piping is the best piping because the losses we guarantee 10 years, there won't be any leakages.
Okay.
And even in PPCH also the same. The fittings are very, very good and there are no leakages in our system. So nowadays I'm telling you, maybe in your industry, if a lot of people are not shifting to it, it's a thing where GI-MS is not outdated. You need to either go to aluminum piping if you have a better budget. If you have a little lower budget, then you can go for PPCH piping. So it's a polyurethane, some PPCH, okay. I don't know the exact full form of it, but it is again part of polymer based material. Okay. And it is again very reliable, leak proof.
Okay. And as you are also doing total electrical connections, right?
Electrical projects. Yes.
So how a industry should do the electrical use the electrical connections, because I have seen many where the shabby connections are there. There is from only one bus bar is there, from all machines are connected from that bus bar. No separate panels are installed.
See, I'll explain you here. What happens, normally what we do, we prefer to do greenfield projects.
Okay.
So, for example, a greenfield project, you are setting up a new polymer factory, production factory. So, we will see what is the load requirement. Again, the same thing. Everything is standard. What is your load requirement? What kind of how much kVA transformer will be required? We do a complete layout. If you have an AutoCAD drawing, we can give the sizing of what transformer is required, what panels are required, how the distribution system should be laid. We had executed good greenfield projects like John Deere, Avery Dennison, Toral India. These are our repeated customers. We're doing just for industry. And our advantage is we have a discussion with the customer. We check their requirement. We make a BOQ. If they have a consultant, it's okay. But even if they don't have a consultant, we make a complete BOQ. Right from lighting, right from distribution, right from cable laying, right from how the raceways, either raceways or cable trees has to be placed, where the panel has to be placed, how the panel has to be designed, how many breakers, changeovers will be required in the panel, the sizing of transformer, the transformer yard, street lighting. So Thing is that it all depends when the customer is going to set up his plant. If he does right things, then I would say he will have a very, very efficient utility system and a power system in his factory. Electrical system, I mean, sorry.
Okay. And now, apart from that, about your personal liking, you have completed 6 triathlons.
Full Ironmans.
Full Ironmans. So, please share your experiences about it.
Okay, so this is a very interesting topic. We should have a different podcast for it. I had a couple of podcasts on my triathlon journey. Okay, so I'm a triathlete. I started doing triathlons since 2016. I did Olympic distance in Goa. In 2017 also I did one more Olympic distance in Goa and started enjoying the journey. So a triathlon is a 3-sport event where you swim, where you bike, and where you run. So when I say I did 6 full Ironmans, I participated across all continents. The 6 full Ironman, the distances, you swim 3.8 kilometers, then you ride 180 kilometers, and then you run a full marathon, that is 42.2 kilometers. So you'll ask me how many days or how many, I don't know, you might ask me how many days mostly. You will have to do all these things. So it is in one day. It is supposed to be the most toughest one-day sport, and there are cutoffs as per the city limits. So either it is a 17-hour cutoff, or for example, now there is in Hamburg I did last year, it was 15 and a half hour cutoff.
Achha.
So the cutoff, the intermittent cutoff. And these races you can swim either in a lake, in a river, or in an open sea. And then bike also, the course can be according to the city, it can be rolling terrain, and then you run 42 kilometers. So it is one of the most toughest sports.
Back to back.
Back to back. Everything is back to back. So your timing also, the timing which is calculated is also the change time where you, if you're swimming in a 17-18 degree water temperature, you're wearing a wetsuit. You need to come out of the open water. You need to change the wetsuit. You need to, when you're going on your bicycle, you need to put those cleats, shoes which has cleats. And then when you are on your run, you need to take them off, put your running shoes and run. So all these transition timings are also included in it.
Okay.
And food and all, you have gels and bananas and energy drinks on the course.
On the course.
So everything is on the course.
So
it's a very interesting journey.
There is no lunch break.
There is no lunch break. You can have lunch on your bicycle.
So when you're doing this triathlon training and going overseas for your triathlon, back at the office, how do you manage your business, the processes? How you have automated all these processes?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. So as I told you, a triathlon is a journey where you just cannot go and be there at the start line. It's a process. You have to be very disciplined. You will have to train at least 6 days a week for 6 months to be there at the starting line.
All right.
So you need to be very, very disciplined. And as I said, I personally believe that triathlon is a very difficult. I will not advise everyone should start doing triathlon from tomorrow, but everyone should be into fitness. Everyone should give at least 1 hour every day for yourself. And believe me, it will also have an impact on your business. So as I told you about this, it's about when you are doing a triathlon, you are so disciplined in your workout, and that same thing, it carries on in your business. When you're working out, when you're doing exercises every day, your mind also remains fresh. And when your mind is fresh, you have new ideas coming in. New ideas how you can run your business, how you can run your personal life. So all these things, if you have a fit body and fit mind, everything comes into place. In my case, fortunately, as I've been working for last so many years, we have put a lot of good systems in place. We have excellent systems, as I told you, in our business. Financial management, as I told you earlier, is very, very important. So we don't give credits to customer. Wherever it is there, 10%, Fine, after commissioning, basic credit, that much we offer. Not to all customers, again, depending on case to case. We have got people who are there in the market who go and collect outstanding payment from customers. We have got monthly trackers. We have got daily trackers, invoice trackers, how much invoicing happening every day. So we have a lot of good systems in place wherein we can monitor a lot of things. Even if I'm going for a race overseas, I can monitor what sale has happened today. The mails are there where I can see if new quotes are going or not going. And maybe even a 10-15 minutes call with my managers is sufficient, because you should also empower. You should also empower things to your team. So this is also, you just cannot keep everything with you. If you're going to keep every decision, everything with you, then definitely you won't have time for yourself to do exercises or pursue whatever hobbies you have.
Right.
So that is again a very important thing, because and you should trust your people. So fortunately, I employ roughly around 100 people, from service engineers to managers to backend team, and everyone has been empowered to do certain tasks which they are supposed to do. So if you do that, I think you can also spare time for all these activities.
Okay. So what do you think about consistency?
Consistency is one of the most important thing in sports, in fitness, in personal life. I always believe, because you have to rise at 7 in the morning or 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, depending on your training, what you have to do that day. Either you have to do a cycle ride or a swim or a bike ride or strength training. Now, Mr. Vishwesh, you will say, I am also consistent, isn't it?
Yeah.
You must be going to your factory at 9:30 in the morning, coming back at 6 in the morning, maybe all 6 days a week. And being a business owner, maybe you might even have to go on Sunday some days, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are also consistent.
Yeah.
Why? Why not? Why not for personal physical health or fitness? Why not? You know the answer. Because when you are working, or when you're working for an organization, you are self-employed, maybe you are staff, they have to do it because they don't have a choice. They have to go at 9:30 in the morning or come back at 5:30 in the morning. They don't have a choice, because they have to earn a living. They have to earn a living. That's why it's compulsory. There is a song in Hindi you must have heard, Duniya mein jeena hai to kaam kar pyare, haath jod sabko salam kar pyare. You heard this song. It's a very old Rajesh Khanna Hindi song. So you don't have a choice. But now, if you have, say, 5 crore in your bank account, or whatever, for you maybe 50 crore in your bank account, would you go to work from tomorrow?
Yeah, still.
Yeah, you will go, but you might go at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you might do things remotely. You have that comfort of having
Leverage
a big bank balance in your account. So it is not mandatory for you to go and work. So you might be consistent or you might be inconsistent. But whereas for personal fitness, there has to be only and only self-motivation.
Right.
And self-motivation and consistency are very, very difficult in your personal fitness journey. So I always believe, because if you go, because you see on 31st December, people make what they say that from 1st January, I'm going to join a gym, I'm going to do a crash diet. They do it for 6 days, 7 days, 15 days. They forget it. They're not consistent. So I always believe fitness is like a journey. You have to be very, very consistent. And if you do it for 3 months, then you will do it for 6 months, and then do it for a year, you will see the results. The results will be phenomenal. And those results will be so good that will also help you in your business, in your personal life. Mark my words. I have been leading an active life for more than 10 years now.
All right.
And I am always energetic. You have met me so many times. My energy levels are always high, because that is an active lifestyle which I am leading, and it also helps me in my, as I told you, in my business and everywhere else.
Okay. So thank you, Venkatesh ji. So before signing off, your message for our viewers.
Okay. So as I said, consistency, financial discipline, these are the 2 things which can take you way ahead in your business.
Yeah. Thank you.